Oh, wow. This is one of the few times I've started the show with someone else on screen. So count yourself lucky, Ben. You were among the elite
Hey
of
guys,
the
what's
Skeptical Help
up?
Bar. Donna's
Hey
here.
there.
What's up, everyone? How's it going? This is going to be a open mic night with a special guest because I didn't want to do it by myself. And I figure, you know what? Who else might have not much to do on a Friday night? Because people like us, I mean, admit it, like we research, we like to read, we like to look into things, and you know, there's been many weekends this has been like that, right?
We are not always the most popular and sociable people. I'll speak for myself anyway.
Well, yeah, I think I'm right there.
Well, and we have to account for everybody in the chat as well. You know?
Yeah,
There you go. There you go. There's lots of miscreants there as well.
All you people
Yeah, I mean, we're all in the same boat. So
out there. Let me say hi to everybody. Jade Kitten's in the house. John Kennedy, Daniel Reed, Robert, Carolyn's here. Awesome. Diane. And more are popping in. This is great. So tonight is going to be open mic night. Basically, it's up to you guys how long the show goes. Hey, JD. So we're going to do some questions. If you guys have questions, again, let me go over the rules first because I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, you are.
I am. I'm totally getting ahead of myself. Let me move over so I don't block myself. There we are. So the rules are basically basic and simple. So you're welcome to ask questions. That's what at least tonight's really about. It's asking questions. You know, maybe we can give you some answers. Maybe we can't, because that goes in the rule number 2 is that we don't know everything. You know, I like to pretend that we do sometimes, but we don't. You learn pretty quickly we don't know everything. But we're willing to admit that, and we look it up. That's why we have Google everywhere. That's a starting point. Rule number 3 is that we follow the Patrick Swayze rule here, and that's be nice.
Yeah.
You can be in the chat room. You can disagree. You can debate. You can discuss. You don't have to like what we say, but just don't devolve into name calling. Don't be a dick. Basically, that's what it comes down to. You know, we're just having a conversation. This is just a bar scene where we're getting to know each other, having conversations. Rule number 4 applies especially tonight. If you have a question, please put a capital Q in front of it. That way it helps Donna pick them out and save them for later, or puts them in the queue so we can get to them. And then rule number 5 is my favorite. Drink up. There we go. Oh, look at that. We're like twinsies.
Yeah. I have my water.
I should tell people that I'm doubly medicated because I have a bit of a cold. I got a bit of the cron cud, the cron cud. Boy, see, but
Cron cud. Wow,
that's how bad off. Yeah, I got a bit of con crud from Dragon Con, and so I'm a little hopped up on cold meds. And then on top of that, just because I succumbed to peer pressure, I got a beer.
Nice.
There we go.
I see Bob's in the house. Shauna
made
I just like doing that.
Hey,
Shauna.
So yes, we can talk. We're going to talk about a few things. Well, especially that because you got the con crud from Dragon Con, which you attended last weekend. I haven't been there yet. Haven't had the opportunity or the funding to go there yet. That's the big thing, the funding, because I know not only is it expensive to go and stay there, but I also am a just whore when it comes to buying stuff. So it would be twice.
It took a lot of shill bucks. I'll say that.
So what? Why we talk about that? You guys get your questions ready. Definitely put a Q in front of it, and then. But what was Dragon Con like? How was it?
So Dragon Con was super cool. I assume that most people know what it is, but they may not. So for those who don't, it's this giant, I think Nerd Fest is the most the sweetest way to put it. It's held in Atlanta, Georgia. Most recently, I think there were over 100,000 people. And it's held over the space of 5 hotels. And the Hilton, the Marriott, the Hyatt, and then the West and a couple others. And it's been going for, I think, 30 years or something. I only heard about it maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And I actually co-founded the Skep Track along with Derek Colanduno, sort of as a response to the X Track, which is sort of the paranormal track. So
Oh, okay. The X track, is that after the X
you know,
Files?
you know what? Check out my OnlyFans.
Okay.
No, so so there's it's everything from science, Harry Potter, Doctor Who, Star Wars, Star Trek, all that sort of stuff, and it's just full of costumes and just cool people. And I actually hadn't been for I think maybe 4 or 5 years, and I figured, well, let me circle back to it. And Derek was said, hey, why don't you come on out? So yeah, it was fun.
That's cool. And you were on one or multiple panels?
Well, so yeah, actually, yeah, funny story. So, I told Derek, I'm like, hey, I'm going to come out for Dragon Con. Go ahead and put me on some panels. And then he had me on for like 2. I'm like, that's fine, but I mean, like, I'm coming all the way out there. I mean,
Right.
So he's like, no problem. So a week and a half later, I'm on like 8 panels and talks. I'm like, dude, come on, man. So yeah, careful what you wish for. But basically, yeah. And so I gave 2 solo talks. One of them was on the organ theft urban legends. So this is as you guys know, it's where the stories about your kidney being stolen, things like that.
Yeah.
And I sort of went into the lesser known aspects to it. So I'm not going to give the whole thing away, but basically there's an adult version of the legend and a child version of the legend. And the one that most people are familiar with is the adult version, because you see it, in horror films and this and that. But there's also a sort of more sinister child version, which in some cases can lead, as you and I both know, as we've talked about, to miscarriages of justice, rumors circulating about stuff. So I talked about that. And of course, that's my bread and butter. I mean, urban legends, I'm all in for that in the folklore. And then I give a talk on basically sort of investigation 101. So sort of talk you would give, just sort of, the basic approaches, some of the questions that you all come up with. And then I was on, I think, 3 or 4 panels with Celestia Ward, Michael Stackpole, Ian Harris, Vandy Beth Glenn, Angie Matke. I'm forgetting other people. The novellas were there. So it was super cool to sort of, talk about, just paranormal and investigation and sort of outreach and stuff like that. So that's basically what I did.
That's cool. And got sick somewhere along the line.
So yeah, I was actually I think my batting average for not getting con crud is about 50-50. And I got back, I guess on Monday night. I'm like, oh, but I'm feeling all right. No worries. I totally I dodged it. And then like night before last, I'm like,
jinx yourself.
Yeah.
So, but it was cool. It was super busy. Just sort of like one thing after another, because there's always stuff you want to see. There's tracks you want to see. There's talks you're giving. See friends and stuff. I did get a couple cool things. One is that, and I think you already saw this on Facebook, but I finally found the guy that found Bigfoot. So of course I'm referring to Lee Majors.
Lee Majors, yes,
yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
So as we all know, if you've seen the documentary, the $6 Million Man, you know that he actually did end up finding Bigfoot. So
yes,
I'm pleased about that. And let me tell you a quick story about one of the panels that he was on. So, and I, of course, Majors is best known for the $6 Million Man. Honestly, I was a bigger fan from the show The Fall Guy.
Yeah, I watched that too.
Yeah, I was just like, this is so cool. He's a stuntman and a bounty hunter, and I wanted to be a stuntman ever since I was a kid. So this was the first time when I actually seen a TV show about a stuntman, and then there's a little behind the scenes, and there's like random cameos, like all of a sudden like Jamie Farr will like pop in, hey Colt, and then she's like, it's like just like totally irrelevant, just totally gratuitous. Anyway, so they had Lee Majors and also Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman.
Nice,
yeah. So that was super cool, and so I sat in on one of their panels, and it was sort of a Q&A thing. But one thing that jumped out at me was that so Lindsay Wagner was talking about her time on the Bionic Woman, among many other things, and she's a bit of She's a very nice person. She's
choose your words wisely.
well, she's alt-medi, a little new agey,
like Gwyneth Paltrow, kind of
not that
not
far
that
gone.
far,
So
but
yeah. So
that's bad.
but I mean, she's super sweet and she was funny and they were both awesome. And you could tell, of course, they worked together 35 years ago. Anyway,
Right.
where I'm going with this is that it was interesting. One of the questions was, so one of the things that set Lindsay Wagner on this path, as she described and told the story, was that as a teenager, she had ulcers, and like really bad ulcers, and didn't know what was going on with it. And so her family took her to a alternative medicine practitioner, let's just say, or the version that you would see in 73 or whatever it was.
Right.
And she was very impressed by it. So she goes to this guy and he's like, okay, well, I can help you out with the ulcers. And he took this sort of like Freudian approach. It's like, so he took this Freudian approach to the idea of like, well, the reason you have these ulcers is because you're holding in like personal trauma. And I actually know something about this through my background in psychology and this and that, but basically it was believed for many, many years, decades, that ulcers were created by stress. That was the widespread assumption. And this was what he also was saying. We now know that actually ulcers are not caused by stress. It's actually it's a bacterium. I'm spacing on the name of it, but it's not E. coli, but it's I'm sure someone in the chat's going to throw it in there anyway. It's not stress, so therefore de-stressing your life isn't going to get rid of your ulcers. H. pylori, thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thanks, Carolyn. And so it was interesting to me, sort of. Anyway, so either Wagner didn't. I mean, she's telling the story as a teenager she's a teenager. This was probably the early 60s, wherever. But of course, with hindsight, we know that her alternative medical practitioner and many others were wrong about that. So
right.
So it's true that it's apparently true. I mean, I don't know, but I'll take her word for it that she was feeling better after she was dealing with her personal issues. We now know that could not have been the problem because the H. pylori was a thing. So anyway, that was sort of an interesting little tidbit that I saw.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I mean, look at that. That's cool.
Sweet.
I love that.
Anyway, that was super cool.
Yeah, that's nice. You know what? I saw somebody mention in the chat room that we're getting old, and I feel that because whenever I go to like Comic Cons or stuff like this, sci-fi cons, I do go for the B-list celebrities. I'm not looking for the ones that you have to pay like $200, $300, $400 to see.
Right.
I'm looking at the people with the very short line, and it's like, who is that? I don't know. That picture is all.
And I love that. Yeah, it's like I'm eclectic in my interests. I mean, I love obscure bands. I love obscure actors. So I like who I like, and with all due respect to whoever is the latest thing on on Netflix, I probably never heard of you. So
I mean, I remember the one time we went to DC. We went to a Comic-Con in DC, and I was going all nervous and shy boy over Erin Gray. I was like,
she was there.
I
still hot, man. Wilma Deering.
I'm telling you, man. I was like all goofy and stuff, like hi,
I'm a dork.
Hi, my name's Kenny. I don't know anything else.
Can I get your picture?
Well, this is what I was talking to my friend Shauna, who went with me in the chat there, and it was interesting because a lot of times there's this sort of notion that that there weren't good female role models, for especially on TV. In before more recent times, I'm thinking, well, there were, Diana Rigg on in the Avengers, Agent 99, Wilma Deering,
Linda freaking Carter.
Linda Carter. Yeah, I mean, there were lots of really strong, powerful role models in the 70s.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway.
Oh, all right. Well, let's see. I know we had a couple questions. Let's try one of them, please.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's go because it is an open mic night. We'll see if we can get them going. Here, Bob. Hey, Bob.
Well, Bob,
Do we only have to be nice to humans or to chupacabras too? Well,
yeah, there's lots of levels to that question. We know humans exist. Chupacabras, not so much. My premise is that you should be nice to any living thing, just in general. There are exceptions, but for the most part, if it's a living thing, even if it's not a living thing, although there's not as much, satisfaction out of being nice to like inanimate objects like rocks. But just assuming that we're confining our discussion to living things,
right.
my basic principle
Rocks
is
are puzzles.
be nice to it. There's no harm done.
I had so Eric behind the wall here. We went out to the West Coast a couple of weeks ago, and we're on this trail. We're going up this extinct volcano, and it's a nice walking path. And we're walking up it, and Eric is really big into philosophy. That was part of his schooling, his college years. So we get into this discussion, and it's funny that you brought up The Rock, because we were talking about consciousness and ethics, and should you be nice to people or other objects, and what's the difference between like being nice to a person or a plant, even though they're both living things. I mean, really getting deep into philosophy. And he's like, what about like as opposed to a plant, but you think like a human or a plant, you think it's a living thing, or a dog or a cat, it's a living thing, you're kind of nice to it, you wouldn't just go up and kick it. But say if I do this, and he kicks a rock and it goes down, tumbling down the hill, and he's like, see, I just kicked that rock, I wasn't nice to it, but does the rock care? Does the rock care? Does it?
No,
doesn't have feelings.
No. See, I would argue that
he hit a lot of plants on the way down.
Well, I would say that he can't know the rock's consciousness and intent. So for all he knows, just work with me here.
I'm working with you.
For all he knows, the rock wanted to be there. So his action, even though he didn't know it, may have actually fulfilled that rock's wishes. So there you go.
It's a good point. Maybe the rock just wanted to take a tumble.
Philosophy is just, it doesn't matter what you say, you can always get an out.
As long as you say it right.
We had like a 2-hour conversation based on the rock being kicked. And it was just funny that you brought it up. I'm like,
well, that reminds me, one thing that I try to go jogging a couple times a week whenever it's not too damn hot and things like that. And a couple years ago, when I was out jogging, I thought this is going to sound like a weird tangent, but here we are.
Well,
again, cold meds and beer. Don't do this at home, folks. I was thinking about like when people say like change history and change history forever, and the word like change history is like it's like thrown out there as if it's like profound. And I realized that literally everything that we do changes history, right? So in some way. So for example, we can say that presidents change history, inventors change history, and writers and so on. But really, depending on the micro level that you're talking about, anything just our existence changes history. The garbage we throw out, this and that. And so sometimes when I'm jogging, I'll kick a rock, just sort of because it's in my path. Usually not towards people, but whatever. And as I'm jogging, I'll be like, I just changed history. And it's true, because if I hadn't been there that second, that rock wouldn't be there. So that rock, that pebble, it is no longer where it was before I came along. It's now a different place. It's completely pointless. It doesn't mean anything, but history in some tiny way was changed.
So, but all right. So we're going to have this discussion.
All right.
How is that changing history if history is in the past?
Well, because it's.
Are you not writing the present?
Well. So I mean, again, goes back to what do we mean by change history? That I sort of see as that something was done that can't be undone. So, for example, you can move that rock back after I leave if anybody cared, but the rock was still there. And I mean, this isn't some sort of like butterfly effect thing. I'm just saying that I don't know. I guess I sometimes get pedantic and annoyed, as you know, by stuff like change history. We all change history just by our very existence. I mean, some people change history more than others, but but it's like it reminds me like when people say that someone left their mark on the world. Well, if we all left our mark on the world, then that would leave a pretty marked up world, right? And so it almost assumes that there's a sort of platonic ideal. There's a way that the world was before we were born, before we existed, and the way that it's left in a different way after we die. And of course, there's millions, millions, if not billions and trillions of different influences. There's people doing things, and there's ecological things, and there's gravity, and there's all sorts of influences. And to think that the average person has more than sort of the most minuscule mark on history is I think kind of amazing.
How's that medication?
Let me tell you.
Keep it going. Because I mean, I see when we talk history, I think things that have already is it changing history or creating history? That's where I'm going, because you're not. The history is already behind you. You can't change it. It's already written.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would argue that changing history is the same as creating it, because I mean, if all we mean by history is a snapshot of the condition of the world and everything in it at a given time, then number one, that's changing with every millisecond. Number two, I mean, the only thing that permanent is change. So, yeah.
And when I hear I made a mark on the world, or somebody made a mark on the world, like I see it as something that is like a blip in the recorded history. I guess that's what I want to say. That's what
I would agree with you. I mean, and that's part of my point right. I mean, that's exactly what I was saying, was that when people say change history, well, on a basic level, we change history. I mean, the fact that you and I are having this conversation, we got people in the chat, we're changing history in the tiniest, most worthless of ways. Is all I'm saying.
Hey now. Hey, this is a very important show. It's making this mark on history.
We have a history teacher speaking up.
Oh, Bob says, as a history teacher, I agree with Redman Kenny. You cannot change history, the definition of which is the study of the past. You cannot change the past. Ooh.
Well,
I guess that's what I'm going.
I mean, obviously you can't go back in time, but the things we do affect the future. So, I mean, if you want to, but keep in mind that's what people say about changing history is your influence in the future. So you can it's 6 of one, half dozen the other, right? So if people say some person changed history, we don't mean they went back in time. We mean that they're influencing the future.
That's a good one, Redman. Yeah,
it's so true. Let's bring this one up at a different time.
I mean, I guess I see.
Hey, Kenny started it with, he's like, well, so Eric and I are talking about kicking rocks.
Yeah, it's my fault. Fucking philosophy, man, gets me every time. All right, moving on. Do we have a question that can change our direction here? Change the conversation.
Back to something prior. Go ahead.
JD Sword. Oh shit, JD's in the house.
Uh-oh.
Is it possible that stress or depression may result in poor hygiene and therefore increased susceptibility to bacterium that causes ulcers?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, one of the problems, and I've sort of looked at this through a public health lens, because that's what I most recently got my degree in. And one of the things you find is that it's like the word energy. Energy could be used a lot of different ways. Like scientists use energy a different way than, for example, homeopaths will use energy. And it's the same thing with stress, right? Is that stress is sort of this panopathogen that is there's almost no condition that we can't in some way link to stress. I mean, we're all under stress. Literally, all of us we're under stress at all times, right? We're economic stress, personal stress, emotional stress, this and that. So just the it's sort of a cop out, and I don't mean that dismissively, but just saying it's caused by stress.
Right.
In theory, anything is caused by stress. I mean, yes, stress can lead to depression, which can then lead to neglecting hygiene, which leads to this and that. But I mean, if you're looking for a clearer causation, if you're looking for stress causes X, again, for a long time it was assumed to be ulcers. We now know that that's factually wrong. Okay. So the short answer to JD's question is yes. The longer answer is yeah, but I mean, with enough leeway and rope, you can connect pretty much anything to stress.
Right. I mean, that makes sense because, you feel stress all the time for different levels, for different things. So you can go through life, for a week, you can be stressed out because of financial issues, but then the following week, you might be stressed out because, your boss said, hey, before you go home, see me.
Right.
And you're like, oh, shit. I hate
I actually sort of think it's analogous to people who talk about or often complain about pressure. People talk about, well, there's social pressure to do X, Y, and Z. And people talking about, there's, and most recently I was thinking about in terms of, like, for example, Barbie, and we did part of a show on this on girl. Yeah, I mean, so there's basically, like, the idea that women feel pressure to look like Barbie, and that's leading to eating disorders. And there's a lot to unpack in that particular sentence, and as people who've seen my work know, that's not really quite true. But the point is that again, it's like, is there pressure? Yes, of course. There's pressure to excel academically. There's pressure to be cool. There's pressure to, I mean, again, we're all under pressure. I mean, there's nothing unique or special or remarkable about, feeling pressure to do X. That's right. That's everyday life. Now, there's cases in which there's excessive pressure, and for example, in Japan to enter graduate school, there's huge pressure on passing a certain grade and getting. So there's certainly social pressures like that, but I don't know if I would roll my eyes, but I look skeptically when people sort of like, well, there shouldn't be this pressure on people. It depends on what it is, but to say there shouldn't be, well, there should be pressure to do well in school. There should be pressure to do your chores. There should be pressure to be a good person. There should be pressure X, Y, and Z. Can that be pathological? Yes, but I don't think that pressure or influence is inherently bad.
I agree. I mean, because if you don't have pressure to do certain things, there's no motivation.
I don't think pressure and stress are the same thing.
No. I'm not saying they're the same thing. I'm saying that in the same way that people often attribute, well, the causes of something bad to stress, people often attribute the same sort of generalized causes of bad things to pressure.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I pressure. I guess I put pressure on myself to make sure I do a good job, like lectures and stuff.
You're failing miserably, as we know.
Yeah, go fuck yourself.
You don't need to feel pressure, man. That ship has sailed. This is a shit show. You can just sit back and let Donna take care of it. Come on.
See, you think I'm mean to him? You see this shit? I asked him to come on this show, and this is what he does.
I can take over the show, though. Kenny just never lets me.
Oh,
all right, fine.
Whatever, bitch.
Whatever.
It's Kenny's show.
It is my show.
I'm just the backup producer.
You're divine, Donna. Don't put yourself down.
Don't
don't take on that pressure, Donna.
Oh.
Don't feel stressed.
Donna's not stressed at the moment.
Donna is not stressed at all.
Not right now.
She's
I was
feeling
earlier
good
today, though. Yo, buying the house stuff. That's all I gotta say.
All right. I think, do we have one more question so far?
You didn't realize this was going to go so far off the rails, did you?
You know what? I love shows like this.
Okay,
honestly.
This question goes back to, I think we were talking about kicking a rock.
Okay.
Oh my
We're back to rock kicking.
Hey,
All right.
Jim.
Thanks,
What if
Jim. All right.
the inanimate object has an attachment, like a spirit attachment?
No, he's talking about an email. So here's the thing. So I've had this happen where I'll be emailing you, Kenny. I'll be like, hey, please see the attachment. I'll send it off, and then like 10 minutes later, you're like, hey, bitch, where's the attachment? That's what he's talking about.
Let me fix that scenario because that's not how it goes. Because the first part where you email me is not just, hey, Kenny. It's usually, hey, fucker. That's how you start pretty much every email to me, every message.
If the shoe fits.
Hey, I feel the love. That's what it is. I
As
feel
you
the
should.
love. But so wait, what does this mean now? Like there's an
I think
again.
I think Jim is talking about it. What if the inanimate object has attached? Yeah, Yeah.
This is what we were talking
I
about.
thought I understood it, but I need more beer.
Okay. Jim, can you clarify just what you mean, like an attachment? Because I thought it meant like an inanimate object that has like a demonic or spiritual attachment.
Yes, a ghost.
Oh, yeah, there he goes.
A ghost.
Yeah.
He says, I mean a ghost.
Well, right. So that's the thing, right? If you kick a rock or an inanimate object that has a ghost attached to it, presumably it goes with the inanimate object. I mean, I don't know. I can't test this, but that's my guess.
My guess is that ghosts aren't real. Stop.
So
Stop
if
it.
a rock had a ghost friend, it wouldn't be real.
Ghosts aren't real.
That's why they call it stone tape theory. You put a piece of tape on a rock.
Oh, that's good.
Did you read my book, Investigating Ghosts? Because it's all in there.
Yes. I have it right on the shelf back here.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad someone read it.
With the rest of your books. I have a bunch of your books.
Well, as you should.
Yeah, I do.
I imagine at least one of them is signed, "Hey, fucker."
I'm pretty sure one is. I maybe during the break I'll go look and see if there is.
Well, feel free to send me one of your books and write, "Hey, fucker."
Oh, okay. All right, I'm on that.
Challenge.
Yeah, you might want to take some time and break, take a nap. Yeah, it's getting there.
You'll feel better by then.
Yeah, I hope you get sicker.
You sound
wow.
Not real bad sick.
Kenny's in rare form today.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
All
right, let's move on.
All right.
There you go.
Ben, what is your latest dive into anything strange or unusual?
Good question. Thank you for that. There's a couple things actually.
But he can't think of any right now.
No,
I'm on meds and beer, dude. Give me a break. Okay, no. Okay, so there's a couple things, and one of them is a secret project that I mentioned to Kenny. Kenny, should we let them in on what it might be, or should we just put the kibosh on that?
Is this the one that we're doing together?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We can. I mean, I have no problem with it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. But first, I'm going to talk about the thing because it's the question directed at me. So Kenny, if you see after the Q, it says Ben on it. That's me. So we'll still go back to our mutual thing first. So I'm working on a couple things.
Okay, Joe.
Excuse me. Joe would not be on video. Joe would not be anywhere near a computer. So unless you think this is like animated by hand, I'm not Joe. All right, moving on. So, yes, there's a couple things that I'm jumping on. So first of all, I have a couple projects. One of them is that I am working on transcribing back episodes of Squaring the Strange, the podcast that I co-host with Celestia Ward and Pascual Romero. We've done lots of shows, 208 or something, whatever. Not as many as you guys have, whatever, but we're working on it. So we're working on putting together a website, and I thought it would be good to transcribe a bunch of back shows so that they're in written form. So I'm working on that. I'm also working on an investigation into the Nicola Bully case. If you're English and British, you probably have heard that story. I won't summarize it. Basically, it's a case where there was a woman who went missing. Her name was Nicola Bully, near a river. And it made big news, and even heard about it over here. And she was missing for, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks. They actually found her while I was in England. I was there about a month ago for a folklore conference, and I happened to see in the paper they had found her body. And I'm like, well, as you and I have done, Kenny, and others have done as well, sort of like, all right, well, I'm curious about this, right? Because I knew that, certain in England, there's lots of psychics who come out of the woodwork, as there are here. So I decided to go back and look at what did psychics say about where Nicola Bully's body would be found.
Right.
So I took some screenshots before the psychics could erase their tracks. So I'm in the process of writing up that case, comparing what we know happened to her and versus what they did, what the psychic said. I'm also working on a piece for Skeptical Inquirer magazine. I was asked to write by the new editor, Steve Hupp. And it basically sort of looks at Bigfoot in the past 50 years, right? Whatever happened to Bigfoot? And it's a follow-up to an article I wrote 20 years ago. I feel old when I say that, but I did an article called Bigfoot at 50. And I sort of summarized all the stuff about Bigfoot. So I was asked to sort of do a feature article on what's the latest on Bigfoot, skepticism, this and that. And I think Celestia Ward is maybe going to be doing the illustration for the cover. So I'm pulling that together. And then the other thing I'm working on, because I got to, this is all, anyway, so the big stack. Anyway, lots of stuff there. And then the other project is one that Kenny and I are working on. Kenny, why don't you describe that so I can have some beer?
So we are working on a project because a while back there was a psychic. Actually, it started with Susan Gerbic. Susan Gerbic was engaged with this psychic in a conversation about psychics aren't real and they don't have superpowers and this and that. And the psychic that she was engaged in this conversation with posted a link. I think Susan actually asked, like, what can you provide? What can you provide us that we can look at where psychics have helped? And that was the thing. This psychic in particular said that psychics have helped solve missing person cases and murders. So Susan asked, what do you got? And this particular psychic, she sent us a link to a Reader's Digest article. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to laugh because it sounds mean, but come on.
It is what it is.
Anyway, and it was like,
hey, are you busting just because it was in Reader's Digest?
Yeah. It was just funny because Reader's Digest is not like a science journal or like an investigative journal.
Yeah, I'm with Kenny on this one.
Yeah. I'm just asking.
But it was titled, I think, the 20 times a psychic actually solved.
It had a very, very bold, very decisive, very psychic surreal type flavor to it.
Yeah, and so that was offered up, and at the time I think you were, the three of us were actually diving into it a little bit,
right?
Just a little bit, because I mean, again, it was 20, and it was like, all right, what do we got on some of these? Right. And you had already done work on some of them,
right? Yeah. So basically, is this case again? We won't go into it because we're basically just starting it out. There's still a lot to do on. Basically, it was this piece, Reader's Digest, and the writer listed, I think it said 20, but I think it's closer to like maybe 15 cases. And I'm sort of skimming through them, and I think the fifth one jumped out at me because I investigated that case in detail. In fact, I wrote up. We did a podcast on it. It's the Nancy Weber James Kadadich homicide case. Right. It's basically the so-called best case for psychic detectives. And so I knew for a fact that the Reader's Digest writer was wrong about that one. I'm like, I know this case better than anyone else in the world. I dug into this. I spent months on it. I know this case backwards and forwards. I know that you're wrong about this case because, she summarized it in 6 sentences. I wrote a 6,000 word article on it. I did a couple shows on it. So that was a red flag to me. Like, well, hold on here. I know this case I know that you're wrong about this one. I'm like, I wonder how many of these other ones she's wrong about. So that's when Kenny and I decided to team up and dig into it.
Right. So that's what we're working on, and we're going to go through them and fully investigate. Not all of them, but we're going to take a handful each, and go through and see what we can find, and see if there's a link from the psychics to the cases. See like what link there is, if there's any, if it's superficial, if it's real, or if it's like way off target. Yeah. Which my prediction is going to be way off target.
Yep, that's my prediction as well.
I mean, looking into them from what I did when this occurred, and this was a few months ago,
yeah,
where it came up, and I dove into like two or three of the cases then, and what I looked at just in the last week, I was like, this is going to be pretty simple, I think, to go through. So we'll see what comes up.
Oh, let me say one other quick thing since the question came up. In terms of all this, in terms of what I'm working on, and I don't want to say too much now, not to tease, just because I'm not too far on it, but for a few years now, I've had the idea to make a short film based loosely on a real psychic detective case. And so I started writing a script. I have a good background to it. And so maybe later this year, early next year, I'm going to try and see if I can turn that into a short film and maybe crowdfunding or something. So keep an eye out for that.
I love the way you said that, because the sentence based loosely on a real psychic detective case, and I'm like, every word of that just makes me cringe. Like, okay.
Yeah, again, I don't want to, but honestly, it was inspired by a case in Cleveland, and also, Kenny, do you remember when we collaborated on psychic detectives in real time?
Yeah.
And you and I and Celestia each picked a then unsolved case, like live unsolved at that time. Right. You did a really interesting case, and actually you even did some cool stuff and went searching for the person.
Yeah.
And that you did a great investigation on that. Don't tell anybody I said that. Celestia did a great job as well. The case that I looked at was the case of Harley Dilly, who was a young boy who went missing in Toledo, Ohio, and he was later found, unfortunately, basically across the street and found dead. And the script that I'm writing is based in part on one of the psychics who obviously and unfortunately couldn't save him.
Wow, that's sad. That's sad.
It is, and I'm hoping. I mean, I'm trying to write. I think it's an important. Again, it's to be a short film, maybe 5-10 minutes, if that.
Right.
And I don't want it to be exploitative. It's not. It's the point is not to exploit anybody. The point is to get the public thinking critically. Like, well, hold on here. Hold on here. If they are real, if they can do what they claim, why isn't it working? Why aren't they finding people? What the hell's going on here? So, and I, that's an obvious thing that we've talked about on the show. We know about that in the skeptical community, and I think that's a point that I could make powerfully in a short film for a much broader audience.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm thinking. I go back. I get on these tangents where I watch like YouTube channels and specific ones, and a lot of them have to do with investigating places. And we've recently been watching this channel called Adventures with Cause, right? Is that what it is?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Where it's a dive team, independent dive team, and they search for missing persons that have been lost. They think in their vehicles in water somewhere. And it's amazing to see these guys go around, and sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's a day or two, but they find these missing people that have been missing for either days or years.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think, like, most of these people are 20, 30, 40 feet off a shore, but there's no psychics or mediums standing there on shore going, right there. Yeah. That's where you need to bring a tow truck right
and,
there.
And let me just add that, like, right
Sure,
now, as we're
that's cool,
speaking,
too.
literally as we're talking, there's at least 2 escaped prisoner stories that I know about because I saw
Oh,
it
I
on,
know.
on TV just an hour ago. So if there are
Yeah,
any
that's
real
on video.
psychics, and again, I don't mean fake psychics, I mean people who you're sure you can do this and you can, now would be a good time to help find this missing this escaped killer. You
Right.
can save someone's life. So
Right. Big. I mean, there's big things you could do, really helpful things for your community, for everyone, and it would show. Hey, like this does work.
well, you know, I've thought about, and you know, I've never done it. I've thought about it. It occurred to me that if I had more time and resources, I would try and mount a pressure campaign about psychics. So, for example, there's missing the escaped killer in I think Pennsylvania, wherever he is.
Yeah.
So and again, I'm not suggesting we do this because I don't have time to do it, and I know you don't either. But if I had unlimited resources in a team, I would say contact the top 10 or 20 name psychics in Pennsylvania and say, hey, you claim to solve crimes. You say you solve all these crimes. There's this missing, there's an escaped prisoner who's a convicted killer, armed and dangerous. If you can do this, where is he? And just put him on the spot. Don't just say, look, you say you can do this. This is happening in your backyard. It's on the news right now. Here's your chance to show the world your powers.
Populated area too.
Yeah. And we should, I believe, and again, I'm not trying to, I think that's a missed opportunity to put these psychics on blast. And just do it. So anyway,
yeah, do what you say you can do. Let's see. I mean, I'm, and it sounds like we're maybe like being harsh here, but we're not. I mean, this is what.
That's what you say you can do. Can you do it or not?
Do it.
If you can do it, then tell the police where this guy is. If you can't do it, then shut up. That's not being mean. That's come on.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's try and take
do another question.
One more question, and then we'll go to break. Jim, so what's your take on Blue Beam or DEU?
Oh, that's for Kenny.
Didn't we look this up before? What is this? Blue Beam Project. Blue Beam Project? I think we looked this up.
I think you were supposed to look it up.
Was I supposed to? Project Blue Beam, conspiracy theory about the New World Order that has been around since 1994. Is that what we're talking about here? Do you know anything about this?
That's on you, dude. That's all on you.
Oh. So that means no, he doesn't know anything.
Jim, we're going to come back to this.
We're going to come back to this
because nobody knows what we're doing.
I don't know what this shit is.
It's going to take a little bit to look that one up.
I have
so
to look
we'll get back to you, Jim. I'm going to write that one down.
All right, Blue Beam or
Here's a question from Redman.
Why doesn't anyone point out that Nostradamus predicted before it happened?
Yeah. That's right. I mean, and I've talked about this. I've written about this. Nostradamus didn't make predictions. He made postdictions. He made assertions that only come true after the fact. If they were predictions, then we would know when something's going to happen instead of saying, "Oh, this happened. Oh, let's search through all his quatrains to find one that matches."
Right. Yeah. So there you go. That was a quick one. That was easy to do.
I know stuff. I've been around.
You've been around. You've been doing this for a while.
Next question.
Bob says, other than currently working with Kenny on this project, who would you like to work with on a project?
In the future.
Ooh, that's a good question. I assume that's directed at me since Kenny's name is in the
Probably.
Who would I like to work with? Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean, as you guys know, I mean, I do almost my investigations by myself, and it's not because I necessarily want to do that. It's just I live alone, I work alone, I'm not in the office anymore. A lot of the projects, investigations I do, they're not really amenable to a team. I'd be happy to. It's just that Kenny's in Buffalo, I'm here. He can't be bothered to show up in Albuquerque, so. So yeah,
never
so
ends.
anyway, so basically, so I don't collaborate as much as I might like to, just for a variety of reasons, including there's a very small number of people that do skeptical investigations. There's like I can count them on two hands, basically. So it really depends on, if there's like something that's UFO, I'll call Mick, or I'll call Robert Schaefer. It really depends on the topic, because I don't know everything. I mean, I know more than Kenny, but I don't know everything. So obviously we have to be able to sort of parse out who knows what. So anybody who would I like to work with?
Redman says it's right there on your shirt.
Dylan, yeah. If Dylan wants to show up, I'd be happy to work with Dylan. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly cool people. I like Josh Gates. I met him a couple times. I sort of, his show is less skeptical than I would like, but it's a TV show, and it is what it is. So
Yeah.
I like him as a person. I like Josh as a person. I think he means well. So I wouldn't mind collaborating with him. I'm just not sure what it would look like. So that's all I can think of.
Yeah, and I think everyone needs to understand, like, it's not collaborating is not always like doing, like, sharing a byline. Sometimes it's just, hey, reaching out. Sometimes I reach out and ask you questions. I know I asked same thing with Mick, Susan. I've worked with JD, who's in the chat room. I've worked with Daniel Reed, who's in the chat room too. I mean, you find people that have expertise, and
absolutely, yeah. So exactly. So I mean, if I was writing an article on something about West Virginia or that area, I would call up Daniel or something. If I had some question about some project involving the Satanic Panic, I'd reach out to JD. So it really just depends. Or Susan Gerbic and psychics. I mean, it depends on the specific topic. But in terms of like, there's not like one investigator who I mean, this is impossible. I mean, I would have liked to do more with Randy. He and I didn't really do many collaborating. We didn't do much because, I mean, just the nature, and he's in Florida, I was here, and sort of non-overlap. So I would sort of like to do more with Massimo Polidoro out in Italy. But again, I'm not in Italy doing investigations. So.
Right. I mean, it's some things like the project that we're working on here. I mean, we can do that. We can work together, and it's nice because now the technology that we have, the modern streaming and all this, allows us to basically, I mean, if we need a meeting, we can do this right here, and it's like we're in the same room. We can talk, we can discuss, we can share notes, pictures, anything we need to, and work together. But you're right, behind the scenes, like, I'm the same way. Most of my investigations I do on my own. Because it's just, I'm relying on me, and I'm pretty anal about being like a perfectionist, and I want to make sure so many things are done a certain way, or I have trouble relying on some people, not everyone, but
no, I know what you mean. And that's, I mean, I think that's part of the issue of collaboration. Again, it's not that I am against it. It's just that the nature of what I do doesn't really lend itself to collaboration. And then the second part of it is, okay, we can collaborate and work together on something, but then the final product, we need to be co-writers. I mean, otherwise it's not fair if we both do an investigation and I'm doing all the writing, or vice versa. And so, and again, I'm not trying to take it. I mean, I'm happy to share credit all around wherever it's due, but it's one of those cases. So what I try to do, like, for example, if somebody helped me out, I'll try to give them an acknowledgement or something. But I mean, you do that all the time, even me. So, I know. Or sometimes I put that in. He's like, so here's the thing. Kenny will send me an article he's written, and I'll throw in there, like, special thanks to Ben Radford, and he won't see it. It's great. And then like a week after it comes out, he's like, hey, bitch, I saw that you thanked yourself in my article. I'm like, the hell I did. And
I edited it. This shit piece.
exactly.
It sounds-
I'm the one that I'm polishing the turd here, so give me some credit.
Hey, I give you credit, man. I read it. You do make little changes here and there, and it does sound better. And then you do offer, like if I'm not aware of someone's work, that has to do with the topic I'm writing, like with the one that I did about the statue,
Right, yeah, that was a good
the
one.
statue from Tanzania.
Yeah.
You gave me some more information and added pictures of statues that you had.
Yeah, and I love doing that because that's the sort of collaboration I like. Is because people don't know everything, and so that's one thing I find is fun is when someone writes something, and I mean I'm not even trying to get credit. I'm trying to, it goes back to something you and I talked about in the previous show, which is that I see our investigative work as like basically it's scientific. It's building cases. It's building a body of work that when other investigators 5, 10, 20, 100 years from now are investigating things, they could say, hey, that's a lot like what Kenny investigated, or this Chase Vault story about this, these moving coffins in Barbados. Ben Radford wrote about that, back, in 2013 or whatever. So I do see, I do see what we do as much as I can in Skeptical Inquirer magazine as trying to build up and tell everybody what happened, right? Because as you and I have talked about, if we learn something, if we do an investigation, we learn something. Yeah. If we don't tell anybody, then other people don't learn from it. They don't learn from our mistakes. They don't learn from other people's mistakes. They don't learn this and that. And so that's one reason why I've always felt it's important to publish as much as we can. Again, not be out of ego, but so other people can learn from what we did and correct us if we're wrong, or add to it, or again, if we miss something, then do better, right? To take what we did and show where we're wrong. That's great.
Yeah, I agree. It's passing on that knowledge, and that's what it is. Other people are passing their knowledge on to us when we're writing and asking questions.
Exactly.
We're gaining that knowledge, and I want to keep passing it on because my philosophy is right there with yours. And I think that when I put out an article or a video, whatever, I want to put as much information as I can packed into that so that whoever's watching it or reading it can say, well, you know what? Now I know this. Now I can go on my next investigation or ghost hunt or whatever I do, and I'll have this in the back of my head, and maybe I can stop. And instead of accepting, maybe that orb is a ghost, because that the bane of my existence is orbs. Maybe I'll look at that and say, oh, maybe that is a piece of dust in front of the camera. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, this may sound self-serving, but I see it as, we're trying to help other people do, look, to the extent that Kenny or I or other people can weed out the obvious false positives, to the extent that we can rule out the bogus explanations, we're doing you a favor, right? You don't need to think about those. We've explained that. That's not, when you have some weird phenomena and you can think of 3 or 4 possible explanations, if the work that Kenny or I or Joe or anybody else has done helps you eliminate 1 or 2 of those right away, then all the better, right? We've advanced the cause of truth.
You now, instead of having 10 steps, maybe you have 8 steps to go.
Exactly.
To figure out what's going on. So you're welcome. All right, let's take our break.
We don't have any questions.
We don't have any questions left. So it's up to you guys.
Wrap it up. Maybe.
The second hour, we're going to do our break. So we got 4 minutes to go do our thing. And then when we come back, put some questions up. If not, we'll wrap it up a little early and get out of here.
That was cool.
It's so cool. I'm so jealous. I really am. So yeah, put the Q in front of it. Put some questions in the chat room so we have more to talk about when we come back. But if not, then we'll do our announcements and plugs or whatever, and then we'll get out of here and start the weekend. Yeah. So let me bring up the commercial video, and we'll see you back here in about 4 minutes from now. We are back. That's right. Wow. You look hideous.
You look marvelous.
You look marvelous, you beautiful thing, you.
Wonderful.
Oh my God. It's like Marlon Brando.
Here's a
Anyway,
question
Oh.
for you.
look at this. Donna's like right on. She's like, get to work.
Boom.
She wants to get out of here early. Aside from the Chupacabra research, what case stands out as one that you spent the most time researching?
Thank you, Daniel, for that question. It would either be, I mean, the other topic would be.
Oh,
There's a
did you get him?
mosquito in
No.
here.
Oh,
The other topic would be probably like scary clowns, because of course did the whole book on it. But in terms of a specific case, it would probably be the one that I mentioned earlier, the so-called best case for psychic detectives. That one took me about, I think, 18 months, give or take. So the Chupacabra took 5 years between the time I began researching it and the time I finished writing it, and the book was published. But that's probably the second longest would be the psychic detective case.
Wow. I think the longest case that I worked on was the Conjuring House. When I researched the history, I think that took like 8 months to get through, because for one, the books that Andrea Perrin wrote are
right.
One, that they're about like 2.5, 3 inches thick each.
Right.
And two, they're horrible pieces of shit. Like so bad that I didn't want to read them. But
you have an ongoing one that's even longer.
Oh, well, yeah, I do have an ongoing one. So the longest completed investigation was that one. The longest ongoing one is still
ongoing.
I'm looking for Rose Mackenberg, the grave of Rose Mackenberg, because honestly, at this point, I don't think she has one. But that was Houdini's assistant, chief investigator, if you will, that went around and helped him out and helped him figure out what psychics or mediums were doing at the time, and fed the information back to him for his shows. But I've been hunting for years, going through New York State government papers, trying to find where she might have been buried. And I've run into some really bad dead ends that have all but like halted my investigation. But I'm still trying. I have one more lead to follow up on, and after that, if that proves to be a dead end, then I'm gonna just shelve it for now.
Yeah, I'm trying in terms of completed cases. That one, I mean, there's other ones that were. I mean, I'm thinking about it because you mentioned sort of having to do archival stuff. So probably some of the longer ones I did were, for example, on the Pokemon panic, where I had to investigate like mass sociogenic illness and photosensitive epilepsy. And so I had to do a deep dive into.
You did.
Oh.
What?
You said Pokemon, right?
Pokemon, yeah. Pokemon, yeah, the seizure in 1997. So
okay.
I corresponded with a doctor in Tokyo for a while. And then another one I did a lot of research on was, and I actually haven't written this up yet. Well, we did a show on Squaring the Strange about it, was the Pulse nightclub shooting. And again, I literally haven't written a word about it other than notes for the show. But I took a lot of research in terms of, Omar Mateen, the guy that shot up the Pulse nightclub, and it was being framed in a certain way by the news media. And it turned out that a lot of the things that were being, put up there as evidence for his motivation were wrong. And so I had to do a lot of digging in that. And plus it was very controversial. It wasn't controversial it's a very touchy case, right? Because it involves deaths and and homophobia and things like that, and Islam, and so there's lots of third rail topics that I needed to really be
right.
I mean, I am right about that, but the reason I'm right about it is because I was very, very careful in crossing my T's and dotting my I's and making sure that I was
right
on point about that.
Right. That's the fun thing when we start talking about investigations and how long we spend on it. Because I guess I'm so used to not only watching TV shows, I'm not even going to put the TV shows in it, but watching people go out on the weekend, like weekend adventures, and they spend like 4 or 5 hours at a place, and maybe they did some research, maybe they put a couple hours in, and
oh, we're all done.
Yeah,
the whole investigation.
And by comparison, like I've talked about the house in Canada that I investigated, a private home in Ontario, and that started in June, the beginning of June, and I'm still like, I'm almost done the article, and I told you about, like, I was finishing it up, and I have just like 2 more paragraphs to write up just to make it sound nice, but it's taken me to now to actually get all the answers that I needed. And I had to go back again. I went back this week to visit the house because I had some questions that I couldn't answer from here. I had to be on site in order to recreate some things. So, I mean, you're talking June, July, August, and we're into September now. So 3.5 months, maybe almost 3.5 months on just one house.
Yeah, and I think the other important point about this that often gets missed is that the depth of the investigations that Kenny and I do, and Joe and others as well, is such that, you know, if we were writing for money, right? If the end result was to get paid for an article, Kenny's laughing. He knows where I'm going with this. No one would ever write this. It would be it's like we would have to be paid thousands of dollars for all the hours and hours and research and investigations and interviews and transcribing it. It's just an enormous amount of work. And so where I'm going with this is that I think it's another way in which what we do is unique, in that the average writer, the average journalist is never, I mean, yeah, if you're a head reporter for the New York Times or Washington Post, yeah, you can be on a story for months and you're going to get paid for it. They're an elite group, right? For the most part, nobody in their right mind would put in the amount of time and effort that we put into it. And we don't do it for money because Skeptical Inquirer doesn't pay. So it doesn't pay me. We don't do it for glory because, hello. We do it because well, we're on this show. Okay, well, we do it for the fame of being on the Skeptical Help Bar. Other than that,
boom.
But it's like, so, you know, we do it because we love mysteries, because we love solving mysteries, and we want to explain to people and show people how you can examine these weird phenomena through critical thinking and skepticism, and to some extent, we want to put our print on it, right?
Right.
We want. I mean, this is, and you know, this is part of it. Is
would you say we want to make a mark on the world?
Make a mark on the world, right? Right.
Oh, circle it back.
Yeah, good one. But here's the thing, right?
You're gonna do it with a podcast?
Is it? Well, yeah. I mean, there's other ways to do it, but I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, I will always be the guy, even if I drop dead tomorrow, I will be the guy that solved the Chupacabra mystery, like it or not. I mean, that's done. I mean, that'll always be the same thing with other cases, the Chase Fault story, Pokemon, and so on. And in the same way, Kenny and I will always have written the definitive skeptical treatment of the entity case. Someone else could do it, but if they did, they better put they better have our names in it throughout and improve the quality of the research. And that's part of the reward. So again, I don't want to dominate, but I think it's important that people realize why it is that we do these sorts of things and we put in as much time and energy as we do. And it's for the reasons I described.
Awesome. That's a good way to finish that.
Red Man's bringing it back around.
He do it because he wants to change. Damn right. Damn it. And somebody mentioned this fabulous book. Yes. Which
read it.
I don't know. If you hey Ben, if you can come up with a good trivia question for people, I would be happy to give this away tonight. So think of it in the back of your head.
Okay.
We got a couple minutes, but
yeah, there are no more questions. So
there's no more questions.
You don't have a lot of more.
Oh, but we had okay.
Do you want the
Yeah.
Okay,
but,
so
let's do.
Did you? Well, this is part
broken
of the
up.
question.
Yeah. Did you or
or Ben ever meet the amazing Randy?
Yes, I met and worked with Randy many times.
That's cool. I met Randy at SciCon.
There's a
I
photo in the slideshow.
I
Yes,
know, we just
yeah. Donna was like, we sat down and she's like, somebody asked if you ever met Randy, and the picture just showed up. So yes, I did. I was able to meet Randy two or three times, and got to hang out with him, had lunch with him. So really, really sweet old man. I miss him. So, and I never had a chance to work with him, but that would have been really cool. Just to be able to say, yeah, I worked on this case with him. That would have been cool. So, but yeah, good question. And I know somebody did ask about talking about Bigfoot, but if you wanted to talk about Bigfoot, you have some things to say. I see the question in there, but you didn't actually ask a question. So,
technically, he's going to ignore you because there's not Q in front of him.
You didn't answer the question. It wasn't really a question.
Put in a specific question, then we can talk about it. But yeah, aside from that, no.
Daniel's got a question.
Daniel's got a question. Ben, do you have a literary agent who connects you with publishers?
I do not. I briefly had a literary agent many, many years ago, and I don't actually have one. At this point, I mean, I've been published by, I think, 3 or 4 different publishers, McFarland, a couple university presses, handful of others. None of them are, Random House. I mean, they're not the big publishers that I mean, they're reputable. I mean, they're not, fly by night sketchy ones, but they're middling level ones. Usually at this point in my career, just because I've written 13 books, and I mean, it's usually I can, that having that much of a track record gets you in the door. Like, okay, well, he's not just somebody off the street. He may not be a top name guy, but I mean, he clearly can write something. So something. So that being said, I mean, my most recent book, America the Fearful, I tried to get that published, and it eventually was published, of course. But the first draft was 250,000 words. And actually, Celestia Ward had helped me co-write a chunk of it. And the publishers I took it to, they said, Ben, we love you, but we can't publish this. It's
too long.
Yeah, I mean, it's too big. No one's gonna buy, a 500-page book. It just, I mean, so I had to cut that book by, I think, 2/3.
Wow.
I mean, I'm happy with the book. It's a quality book. America the Fearful. Check it out. Media and the Marketing of National Panics. But again, I had to. Kenny's going to go and prove he's got it. But yeah, so of course, on the plus side, that means that I've got 2/3 of a book laying around that at some point maybe I can. There you go. Thank you.
And I have to note here that if you want to read that, for my buddy Kenny, fuck you, fucker. So
yes. I think that was forged.
I don't think so, because this was actually, I got this from you at your birthday party.
You did.
Yeah. So I was there, and I'm pretty sure I have a picture of you as you were signing it.
You probably do too. Yes.
Yeah, because I take pictures of everything.
And that was fun.
That was a good time. That was especially when we got into Douchebaggin's museum.
Yes, and he walked right by us.
Oh man, good times, man. All right.
And I asked, and I remember we were in the gift shop, and I'm like, so wait, do you have that new book, the one that was plagiarized? And I was like, what? That was great.
Oh my goodness, it's so much fun. And this is like nerding out, but it's so much fun when you're with a group of skeptics and we all get it. And somebody says something like that. We asked, like, we were in the main room and we asked, hey, where's the 666 guitar? where's the satanic guitar? And they're like, oh, it's being refurbished and stuff. Like, really? I don't think it ever came out.
Refurbished.
And then
Okay.
I'm in the gift shop and I'm walking around looking at all this stuff, and all I hear across the gift shop, like not next to him, but across, hey, do you have that book, like that ghost hunting for dummies kind of thing that was plagiarized? And you see the cashier's face like, what? What did you say? And I'm going, oh, security is going to be here. Like,
I'm just doing with a straight face. So I'm just, I hate to bother you. I hate to bother you. Do you have? Oh, they pulled that. That's right. The publisher withdrew the book because of what Kenny did. This is Kenny. You're welcome.
Oh, good times. Whew. That was a good trip too. Except when I got home and found out I had COVID. That was the sucky part. But I blame Brian Dunning for that. It's his fault because he called and said that he had gotten it, and then like 2 or 3 days later, I got it. So it's his fault.
Dunning's pretty sketchy, I'll be honest.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's always been that way. Yeah. Drinks a lot too.
I don't, so you guys balance me out.
Yeah, we do. All right. I think we got one more question.
One more from Bob.
Ben, do you feel that the current political atmosphere is leading to a rise in conspiracy theories? I would ask Kenny, but I know he's not into politics. That's right.
Yeah.
Bob.
Damn it, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. So it's kind of yes and no. I think that the current political atmosphere, and by current, of course, I'm expanding to Trump, and not necessarily because I'm specifically anti-Trump, although I am, but more because Trump. I mean, Trump has mobilized and embraced conspiracy theories in a way that no other president ever has. I mean, again, you can dislike Trump, whatever, but it's a simple fact that no other president in history or any leader of any other country in the world has so consistently and forcefully embraced and shared conspiracy theories. It's been part and parcel of what he's done, as we all know. And of course, this has led partly to QAnon, things like that, and of course the claims of election fraud and so on. So all these are sort of part and parcel of that. So it's clearly true that Trump has mobilized conspiracy theories in a way that no one else has in the past few years. That being said, I think there's a tendency to overestimate the current the current level of them. So, for example, Joe Usinski has done some great work on conspiracies. And he points out that conspiracy theories have always been with us. There's nothing new about them. They circulated centuries ago. They circulated in the 70s and 80s and so on. Princess Diana, the 90s. So there's nothing new about them. What you have is, of course, a rise in social media and sharing, which amplifies conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Disproportionately. So I think that there is some truth. Again, it's sort of a nuanced question. So I think that I think there is a rise in conspiracy theories attributable to politics, but I think that there's other concurrent factors, again, including social media and so on, which make it difficult to tease out the extent to which it's directly attributable to the politics.
I think social media just allows it to spread so much faster, like almost instantaneous, that it's hard to get on top of. Whereas before social media, and even go back further, before the internet really connected us all, it took a lot of time to spread, and it gave people that were closer to ground zero time to refute it or to research it and say, before this gets out too much, we can stop this.
And the other thing that it does is that as social media does, and I talk about this in my book, America the Fearful, not to plug it again, but I do talk about that in the book, is that it magnifies everything, and especially the bad things, because news media amplifies bad things and social media also amplifies bad things. and human psychology amplifies bad things. We're trained to look for the negative, look for the bad things.
Yeah.
And so partly, I mean, again, there's a whole show on that, but one of the results is that we tend to exaggerate and overestimate the pervasiveness of bad things across the board. And this includes, for example, QAnon. So it is absolutely true that QAnon conspiracy theory is toxic. It is damaging. It is problematic. It has caused real problems. It's also true that if you look at the number of people who actually literally believe in it, it's very, very small. So don't. So again, I sometimes see people like, oh, everybody believes. No, most people don't. There are some people that do, and we don't need to ignore them. But the vast majority of the American public doesn't embrace these wild ass, crazy bullshit conspiracies. They may embrace other ones, but they're
right.
So I think it's important to not overestimate and the pervasiveness of them.
Good. That was good.
Yeah.
Good. I like that. Are we done with questions?
That is it.
That is it.
That's it.
That's it.
No more questions.
That's good.
My cold meds are wearing off, so.
Oh, you need to. Yeah, we should wrap it up so you
dose.
can get another dose. Do you just swig it? Do you swig like the NyQuil right out of the jar? I do that.
I know you do.
Yeah, I know you do.
Oh yeah, that little cup. That's nothing. My system will be like, "Are you kidding me? What else you got?"
Kenny sleeps for days.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Do you have anything coming up that you want to plug? Any?
Let's see. Let me think. We have a new Squaring the Strange show that's either out yesterday or soon. I think Celeste said it was out very soon, and it's going to actually be a super cool topic. It is on something called agritainment, and rural horror houses, haunted houses. Oh. So we have a special guest, a folklorist that I met in England, and she's going to come on and talk about that. I just got back from Dragon Con, as we talked about, so I'm not going to plug that. And I'm still recovering from that, frankly. I am giving a talk on Friday the 13th for a local group, but unless you're in Albuquerque, you can't see it. So there you go.
I'll see what my schedule is.
See what you can do.
Maybe I can come out. That's right. That's right. I do. Mm-hmm. All right. For me, I'm going to keep it short. Basically, there is no show next week because I will be in West Virginia, specifically Point Pleasant, West Virginia, for the Mothman Festival. Going down there to meet up with Daniel Reed and Tim Vickers of the West Virginia Skeptic Society. So give them a plug. I'll be hanging out there. And then we're also going to take a trip over to Flatwoods because I want to see the Flatwoods Monster Museum and also the Bigfoot Museum that is apparently right down the street from it. So, I mean, that's 3 monsters, 3 cryptids in one trip. Like, I cannot wait. But I think Donna, I can't talk about it too much because Donna said I don't think she's going with me.
It's okay.
Yeah, so I'll be going solo, coming down there and not having an awesome time with Daniel Reed and Tim Vickers.
Right.
I'm gonna have such a boring ass time.
Sure, whatever.
Awesome. But after that, the following week on the Skeptical Help Bar, I'm gonna have a guest, and it's still it should be solidified. I just gotta keep reminding the guest. She goes by the name Shenanigans. And she's on TikTok, and she finds people by just looking through their TikTok videos and Facebook accounts. She finds where they live. It's all with their consent. It's not like a stalker thing. But she also does finding like deadbeat dads, deadbeat moms, people that are hiding from, caring for their kids with child support and stuff. So she actually finds where they live just by going through their videos, and it's amazing. It's really a cool skill because it gets into so many avenues of investigation, and it's a skill all on its own, which is really cool. So she's going to come on and talk about why she got into it and how she does it, and anything else that comes up. So looking
Very
forward
cool.
to that. And besides that,
Psychon
is October 26th to 29th, and we'll be out there in Las Vegas. And I'm working, so I can't drink a lot, but I'll drink a little because you just can't stop me.
He'll be drinking a lot.
Oh, drinking.
Just
We're gonna be having fun.
not all
Yeah.
the times.
All right. So with that, everyone have a great weekend. Ben, stick around. Don't just don't kick off after the show. That's weird. Yeah, whatever. There he goes. That's weird. Have you ever noticed that? Sometimes like you end the podcast and people like cut you off. I always have that like after show chat for like a minute or two.
Oh, did you say you wanted me to come up with a trivia question?
Oh yeah. Do you have a trivia question?
I do. Could be on about anything.
Yeah. Anything.
All right. One that pops to mind. What is the name of the person that took the most famous photograph of the Champ Lake monster?
Ooh. All right. Now we're going to stay on for a minute
All
or
right.
so just to see what answers.
Okay, so let's
Capital
repeat that.
A.
Repeat that again.
What is the name of the person that took the most famous photograph of the Champ Lake monster? There's one by far most famous photograph. I interviewed her. She used to live in Vermont. And
Come on, guys. Anybody out there?
Anybody? Everyone's Googling right now.
Right.
Everyone's going
monster.
crazy. Daniel Reed.
Reed got it. Sandy
Yeah.
and Mancy.
The
Sandra
Mancy
Mancy.
photo. Yeah. All right.
Good job,
Daniel's
Daniel.
got it. Daniel, if you already have this book, let me know. And I'll give you a choice of
Yeah.
others. But if you don't have this one, I'll send it out to you.
Or bring it to you next
Bring
week.
it out to
Yeah,
him.
bring it. Yeah. Hell yeah. I'm not shipping it. Saving some money.
Exactly.
All right. Great show, Ben. Thanks for coming on, hanging
Thanks
out
for having me
a
on.
little bit, sharing your knowledge and insight into things. And then, all right. With that, everyone, have a great weekend. Be nice, be kind, and never stop learning. And I'll see you next time.
Yep. Have-